everyone, how are you? We still have a few minutes until our presentation. So I'm gonna go ahead and chill out for a few minutes and wait for a few more people to jump on. Really excited today to tell you a little bit more about how to launch and scale Ortho in a pediatric dental practice. We'll jump into that in just a few minutes. All right, hang on, hang tight. All right, hi everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our presentation today. I know it's Saturday, you guys probably have a lot to do. We're all, getting our freedom back. So I understand if you can't stay on the whole time. We're gonna try to keep this as a really high level presentation. Just lightly about ortho, different types of ortho you can do in a pediatric dental practice. Just a little bit about us and myself. Let's see. My name is Dr. Amanda Wilson. I'm an orthodontist. I've been out in the industry for, believe it or not, 19 years, 16 as an orthodontist, graduate from UCSF 2001, University of Connecticut, Ortho 2004. Practiced 10 years in the San Francisco Bay Area as a traditional orthodontist. Truth be told, if you've heard my story, I probably made the wrong decision in terms of what specialty to go into. You all probably made the right decision. And I was back and forth between pedo, ortho. I went with ortho and the whole industry changed, right? As soon as I picked it. back in the early 2000s. We all know everything that's happened. So I made a conscious decision to pivot a little bit and get more into product development and helping other doctors, helping develop teams. And I really love it. I love developing new products. I love teaching. I love educating. And right now, my company is called StraightSmile Solutions. We've been around for going on 5 years. Pretty soon, pretty psyched. We do help a lot of pediatric dentists launch and scale ortho. We really are all about helping you do what you need to do for your practice. So if creating an in-house ortho program is something you want to do, we'd be glad to help you. A lot of pediatric dentists maybe keep the phase ones in, the easy, comprehensive, but they refer out the more challenging ones. So we can work with teams as little as 1 month or permanently to help them launch and scale, lower their lab fees, have better treatment plans. And the cool thing about us is that we work with any system that's out there. So if you don't know what system is best, we'll show you the best one for that particular case. We'll talk to you a little bit more about your demographics and perhaps find some great revenue streams for your office. And right now, I think in light of COVID and everything that's happening, this is a really good idea to get into sustainable revenue solutions in your practice that can sustain themselves even if you're closed, especially if you're doing removables like phase 1 products, expanders, phase 1 aligners. And believe it or not, phase 1 aligners don't have to just be Invisalign first. There's a lot of options out there that are way cheaper and work just as well. So we're super glad to tell you more about it. And we're really honored to be here at AAPD. Wish we could be there in person. I love Nashville. I'm kind of bummed out, but I understand. So just a little bit more about me. This is my daughter. She's actually now in 5th grade. She's a very complicated ortho case. We've been starting in 3rd grade, doing some expansion, correcting overjet, overbite. Now she has an impacted canine, but all of this to this point has been all removable appliances. And these are all things you can do in your practice to help to develop bites and to help to lay the pavement, get everything ready, the scaffolding, the foundation. And if you build it, they will come. If you create the arch and get everything lined up correctly and get the bite correctly and get rid of habits and everything, teeth generally fall where they're supposed to fall. Now, I mean, occasionally you're going to have an impaction or something, a missing tooth, things can happen. But for the most of your patients, these are all things you can do in your practice to help the patients achieve a better smile and a much less invasive way to achieve it. If you're doing phase 1, you're going to have way less extractions on your patients, less surgery, exposure surgeries, less jaw surgeries. You're going to have happier and healthier kids, and we're here to help you with that. So, and believe it or not, lab fees, for the most part, they should be less than $500 or $600. There's no reason you should be paying $2,000 on lab fees. So today we're going to, like I said, it's going to be a super high level presentation. You're welcome to do Q&A. If I think it's a Q&A that will, is good to address the everyone, the whole population, I'll be glad to answer it on air. Otherwise, please make sure you give us your contact information and we'll reach out to you afterwards one-on-one. We're glad to talk to anyone. It's totally free and would be glad to connect with you. You can go to StraightSmileSolutions.com to connect with us. There's a button to schedule a conversation. So today we're going to be talking about a bunch of things: phase 1, functional appliances, straight wire, indirect bonding, aligners, hybrid, and retention. Like I said, this is going to be crazy high level today. We're probably going to do this in 20 to 30 minutes max. And if I think the questions are useful, I will definitely answer them on air. If not, if they're more personal or doctor focused, patient focused, we'll definitely talk off air and we'll schedule a time to chat more. So let's talk about the why a little bit more behind why. Why should you be doing this in your practice? We kind of already talked about it, but the more ortho you do means the more other stuff you can do. And if you're into cosmetics, I don't know if you guys are dropping implants, probably not so much. But for you guys, I think it makes sense to take care of your patients and bring in a more additional revenue stream in. It doesn't mean that you do not have to be referring to your ortho. That's totally fine. Matter of fact, a lot of the doctors that I work with send way more cases than ever to the ortho down the street, if that's what you want to do. And if you don't, you can take them too. So what are some of the push points that we get about GPs? I write GPs because I'm talking GPs in general being primary care. You're also primary care. But for the most part, I think the concern is the cost for classes and equipment. Really no need to take classes nowadays. You really shouldn't have to buy anything. The only thing I would really strongly recommend that you buy would be an intraoral scanner if you don't already have one. I think that's pretty much standard of care at this point. and you can get a decent one for $10,000 to $17,000 and finance it over 5 years. It's a really small cost. If you're going to get into ortho, especially with pediatric patients, I think it's pretty much a must. There's some lease to own programs. I'm glad to connect you with some people that can help you about that. We talked about referral patterns. That's really not going to be an issue, because if you want to, you can refer even more patients than ever. And number 3 would be inefficiency and margins. And that's something that I get a lot with doctors, where maybe they've tried a few cases, but it's just, they think it's not for them. They think it doesn't work. They don't make money on it. That's really not the case. If you do things correctly, you shouldn't be having revisions, refinements, breakage, anything like that. There's so many little loose ends that we can teach you about to make this more efficient. So let's talk a little bit about crowding. What's the why behind crowding? And we can go into all the research, and I'll be glad to send it to you if you have questions. But basically, in a nutshell, crowding is a first world problem. It's a 21st century problem and a 20th century problem. 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago in tribal diets, tribal countries, it wasn't happening. So even now, you can take a look at populations that grow up in a more third world diet. They don't really have crowding. First world does. So glad to tell you more about that. But when you tell this to a parent, it kind of blows them away, especially if they have a baby, letting them know that baby food isn't always the best thing to do, and that, breastfeeding is the best, ideally up to age 2, not introducing baby foods, pureed foods. Back in the olden days or whatever, there was no baby foods, right? They'd eat adult diet, maybe you'd cut it up into small pieces, they learn to knot and everything like that. That is super important to develop the arches. So I just want to encourage you to think about that and to be talking to your parents about that. Now let's talk a little bit about comprehensive versus short-term ortho, or STO. What's the difference? So just want to make sure we talk about that. And we can also talk about phase 1. So phase 1 is early treatment, interceptive treatment, that is finding a problem, correcting it, so that, like I said, laying the foundation. So hopefully everything will turn out. It doesn't mean straightening all the teeth. You're going to be doing phase 1 in like a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old. It's only bite issues pretty much, interceptive. It might involve some front teeth as well, depending on if there's an impacted canine or something like that, making space for something. But for the most part, it's just bite and habits. Comprehensive means getting the patient from A to Z. That means if you're doing comprehensive and you're billing D80-80, D80-70, D80-90, you have to take the patient all the way to the end, okay? And we'll be glad to give you more information about billing if you want to reach out to us. Anything that we are mentioning, you are more than welcome to talk to us. You can contact us at StraightSmileSolutions.com. And for the life of this weekend, at least until Sunday evening, most of our paperwork is really only for our clients, our paid clients. But until the end of AAPD, any paperwork that I mentioned, if you are a licensed dentist and you reach out to us directly before tomorrow evening, we will be glad to give you anything that we mentioned, any of the resources we talked about. But you do need to reach out to us by tomorrow night. So short-term ortho just means basically fixing an isolated problem in an adult. So say someone just had a gap, but they had an overjet, overbite, and you're only closing the gap. And a lot of DTC aligner companies are STO. 6 Month Smiles is STO because they don't use rectangular wires. They don't torque the teeth. So STO, for the most part, if you're doing STO, you really should be billing a different billing. You're not billing comprehensive. So just things to keep in mind. Billing's a whole nother discussion. Again, comprehensive, fixing malocclusions, overjet, overbite, crossbites, finishing the case, ideally including torque and root uprighting. STO, anterior alignment only, or perhaps you're only doing a limited situation, less stability, permanent retention may be necessary. So again, we're talking about the different buckets of different options for orthodontics in a primary care practice like yourself. Phase 1 is one option. A lot of pediatric dentists only want to do phase 1. That's totally fine. But I strongly recommend learning all 3 buckets, phase 1, braces, and aligners, because first of all, phase 1 often is aligners, right? And when you treat a little patient, later they're going to need phase 2. They may or may not want to refer out at that point because they already trust you. And you get one patient, and now you get the older sibling, and now you get the parents. So it's like buy one, get 3 free, right? You're going to get, it's really hard to say no, especially if it's an easy case. So anytime you do aligners and appliances, you got to learn basic braces. The cool thing is you don't even have to know how to put them on. Right now, I'm glad to refer you. I have a couple labs that will do indirect bonding as low as $350 for the full set, including the brackets, the digital placement, everything, the transfer trays. Super easy. You don't even know how to put them on. All you're going to do is etch, prime, bond, slap it on, like cure, peel it off. And you need a couple of wires. We'll be glad to tell you more about that, and you're done. So very easy, and that is comprehensive. So I think if you're going to do aligners, you need to know how to do braces, because occasionally you're going to have a patient that just doesn't want them, aligners, or isn't compliant. And you're going to have to switch to braces, maybe for an upgrade fee, and you need to understand how to do them. Otherwise, it's going to get messy if you have to transfer them out. So let's talk a little bit about what type of records you need. I think this is a question that a lot of pediatric dentists get kind of obsessed and caught up under. I don't want to stress you out. For the majority of patients, all you're going to need is a Ortho 8 series, which is here. Okay, basic Ortho 8 series here, as well as a panoramic x-ray, which I'm sure you already have. In terms of a cephalometric x-ray, depends on what you're doing, okay? If you're trying to grow a jaw, yeah, you need it, okay? But if it's a standard like class 1 patient, nah, you don't need it. So, and a scan would definitely be there. So let's talk about photos. We talked about them here. Photos are awesome. And I think in a pediatric practice, you need to be taking a crazy amount of photos at least every year on your patient. There's so many things that you can catch, you can find. It's a great educational tool, a great way to explain treatment to the parents and the kids. And there's nothing more powerful than seeing a series of photos and watching something get worse, or watching something become more severe, or watching the progression of disease. And hopefully you're not having a lot of these in kids, but certainly things to think about, deep bites and trauma, paddle trauma, impingement, overjet, overbite. A lot of these things are going to get worse with age. And you need to understand this, because, you can have a crystal ball, and you need to understand the why behind what things are going to get worse and what things will get better. And you should be able, with experience and with education, you should be able to see any 2-year-old in your practice and predict what their teeth and their bite is going to look like at 20, without intervention. I need you to know how to do that, because you need to start seeing these kids at 2 and 3 and explain to the patient what's going on, and the parent, and if they should be anticipating early intervention, or maybe being able to wait till age 12 for comprehensive. And I think if you give them a heads up and some advance notice, then they're really much more prepared for it. Personal story, just me. If you haven't heard my personal story, I had really nice, I should find a picture of myself when I was 5 or 6, but really nice straight teeth, your traditional gaps like you should have. But I had 100% deep bite, lower teeth hitting the roof of the mouth. Pediatric dentist, I actually had a pediatric dentist. My mom kept saying, does she need to go to ortho? And they're like, nah, it's just cosmetic, no need, I was asking and asking and asking, I really, really wanted it because I had a few gaps, for cosmetic reasons. Well, what happened was, over time, deep bites or 100% overbites are going to get worse. That's something that's going to get worse. And that impinging trauma actually totally messed up my front teeth in terms of the roots and everything like that. A lot of damage was done, and they didn't catch it till I was 18, 19. And then I had to have braces in college. I was not happy at that point. And, it was a very uncomfortable and painful situation that should have been caught by my pediatric dentist. And I think that's why it's actually, at this point, it's a huge liability for your practice if you don't know what you're talking about. And I think just the blanket referral at age 7 to an ortho without the why behind it is not effective at all. I mean, that's line malpractice, I would say. You need to understand the why. You can't just say, well, you should go because you're 7, because that's when you're supposed to go. I mean, they expect you to know a little bit about ortho. That's something you should know about. And, well, doctor, why? Do I really need to go? They don't want to go. And especially now with COVID, they don't want to go to another practice unless they really need to go. Why, doctor? Why do I need to go? Is this going to get worse? When does she need braces? Does she need braces? Even if you don't want to touch it, you need to understand it so that you can qualify your referrals a little bit more and chart it for liability reasons and just good patient care. So glad to talk to you more about that. So we talked about different records to take. We talked about the panel being critically important. This is a great x-ray that I saw where, patient had never had a pano. So now patient is an adult, never had a pano. Well, they were only taking bite wings and PAs, and I guess they thought these were permanent canines. I mean, they don't look like it to me, but in a, the standard 2 PA, 4 bite wing kind of thing, that's what it looks like. So until this patient had a pano, they didn't realize they had impactions that were pretty much up in their palate, which can really cause future effects. So you need to be taking proper records. Other records that might be useful would be your hand wrist x-ray is really helpful sometimes to know a little bit more about skeletal age. I have some great information about that if you'd like to learn more about it. Like I said, that's all free as long as you contact me by the end of the conference tomorrow. CBCT maybe, periodontal charting probably not in a kid, and Cephs as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about aligners. So we've talked about this before. I think there's a misconception that they're super crazy expensive. They don't have to be. There's all kinds of ways to make it cheaper. Phase 1 aligners is probably something that you're really excited about. I've done a lot of phase 1 aligners. I've worked with a lot of doctors that have done a lot of phase 1 aligners. You don't have to pay for Invisalign first. There's plenty of other ways through white label, through ClearCorrect that you can do phase 1 aligners for way, way, way cheaper and easier. And you know, how can you possibly pay almost $3,000 in lab fees for phase 1 and phase 2 aligners to Invisalign? That's just insane. The average American, there's no way the parents are going to be able to afford to pay you what they need to pay you to make this worth it. So there's lots of other options that you probably don't even know that are available. Branded aligners, like we talked about, are available. Everyone pretty much knows who they are at this point. Aligners came out in 1997. 2006, ClearCorrect came out, and now, you know, everything's available to primary care dentists like yourself, but a lot of them are very expensive. Invisalign and ClearCorrect are the main, you know, aligner companies that maybe you've heard of, but there's so many other ones that are out there, and we're glad to tell you a little bit more about what the options are. Now, remember, there are 4 components to aligner success. So if you want to have a successful aligner case, there's a lot of things that you need to do. And if you drop the ball on even one of these, the case is probably not going to turn out. And I think a lot of times dentists aren't really aware of what their responsibility is, and how easy it is to drop the ball, and how you need to understand a little bit more and maybe trust the aligner company less. So remember, case selection is huge. It's huge. For the top 2 aligner companies, they're unlikely to ever say no to any case that you give them, but some cases are just not appropriate for aligners, or even, you know, traditional braces without jaw surgery. They're never going to say no. They're going to say yes, and they're going to make you a treatment plan that seems okay. But whether this is even possible or it'll even happen, that's really something you need to know. You cannot trust, I can't tell you, you cannot trust your treatment planner. You can't. You're going to get, as a new lower level doctor, the worst possible treatment planner, the most green one possible. They say they have orthodontists in their team, but that doesn't mean the orthodontists are even, first of all, they're internationally licensed orthodontists. So it's not the same thing. Second of all, you don't even know if they're even looking at your case. And if they are, they don't care. That's the truth of the matter. And I'm not popular for saying what I'm saying, but it's the honest truth. So you need to realize that you might be getting some random person that took a weekend class on how to treatment plan in Costa Rica or Pakistan, and you're trusting them for your patient. You need to know you need to understand what you're looking at. Let them do all the hard work with the treatment plan, but you can say no, yes, do this, change this, stage this longer, put an attachment here, to come up with a really great treatment plan that is actually predictable. So case selection, your responsibility. The treatment plan, your responsibility. The actual production of the fabrication of the aligners, that's the responsibility of the company, but you should know if something's not right. Compliance is the #1 mistake that most doctors make. You need to create a compliance program. There's a lot of turnkey programs out there, and I'm glad to talk to you more about that. Your cases will not turn out if you do not have this. Let's talk a little bit more about white label aligners. This is basically off-label aligners. A couple of years ago, Align's first round of patents became expired, and now this is available to every dentist. You can do aligners as cheap as $15 per aligner. That's out there. There's 4 treatment planning companies that I mostly work with. One of these ones I work with more than the others. It's also very low cost. I'm glad to refer you. If I refer you, you'll get a super cheap price. So reach out to me if you're interested in hearing more, and I'll be glad to connect you. But for the most part, $90 for the setup, $15 per aligner, and this is for Zendura FLX aligners, which is the best possible material you can make it with. You can use any scanner out there, as long as it creates an STL file. The stuff is crazy fast, to turn around. And actually, this is an old setup, so now they do precision cuts, so that's pretty cool, and bite tabs, so that's pretty awesome. So I need to update this this thing. All right, case selection we talked about is really important. It's really not as hard as you think. So we've talked about which ones are good. These are actually great aligner cases. These are not great aligner cases. Actually, that one's not bad, but you need to understand what a good case is. We talked about compliance, aligner tracking. You need to understand how to create a compliance program within your practice. It's really easy actually, but you can't just give your patient a bunch of aligners and say, come back in a few weeks. That doesn't work. They're gonna get off track, okay? So you can even see minor tracking issues here. That's gonna become major tracking issues later like this, okay? So this is good tracking. So these are all ways that you need to educate your patients. Again, minor tracking issues, great tracking. So let's talk a little bit more about phase one. We've already talked about it a little bit. Here's some of the price points that I recommend for that, for your practice. If you're gonna do phase one, most likely you're gonna need a second phase two later. Whether you choose to keep the phase two in your house or not, in your office or not, you can always decide that later. I love the idea of pediatric dentists doing phase one because it's a small commitment that you can handle. And then later, if it looks, everything comes in like you planned really well, you can always do the phase two later. Remember, insurance is probably only gonna pay once. So if you wipe out the insurance in phase one, there's no bigger way to piss off a parent than all of a sudden telling them, by the way, you owe me $5,000 for phase two, you know, by the way, insurance is gonna cover that. They will be furious. So you need to be really, really clear with the patient, with the parent. If you're going to use the insurance now in phase one, it might cover the whole thing or most of it, but later they're going to, if they need phase two, which is likely that they'll need something, need in quotes, it may not, maybe a little bit more cosmetic, less functional. It may not be something they have to do immediately, but most likely they're going to need a little bit. And it could just be a few express aligners, but we can't predict the future. All we can do is set things up for success. So in comparison, comprehensive is one go, do it all in one go. But remember, right now with phase one, you're trying to harness the growth during the pre-pubertal, pubertal phase. And this can happen in a girl at 8, 9, 10, and often does happen by 9, 10. And they may only have 8 permanent teeth in at that point. So you really now more than ever need to be doing phase one so that you can harness the growth. If you wait for comprehensive until they're done growing, you're not going to get a good outcome. So it's really important to understand that and understand growth a little bit more. Here's some of the options that you can do in terms of appliances for phase one in your office. You don't have to do them all, but these are just suggestions. Expanders come in all different forms. Myofunctional trainers, distalizers, ways to upright teeth, habit appliances. I'm not a huge fan of headgear, not this kind of headgear, but I like the protraction face mask that moves the upper jaw forward. That's great for class 3. That works really well. And growth modification devices. I mentioned the My Phase 1 Smile Index. That is something, again, if you contact me before Sunday evening, tomorrow, I'll be glad to email that to you. You'll need to email us directly, and you can go to our website to do that. And I will send you a copy of that. Normally there's a fee for that. It's a free screening form that is used by our clients, but I'll be glad to give it to you. And actually I thought it was going to be on my page to upload, but it didn't show up. So same thing with our hand wrist x-ray analysis form. We created this. We found an easy way that we just created on our own. This is copyright to be able to screen your patients to know their growth. Super awesome. A lot of pediatricians love our form, and it's something that you could actually bring this if you wanted to your pediatrician. What a great way to network and to get more clients. We've talked a lot about phase one, expanders, different types of expanders, RPEs. Great way to develop the arches, to fix certain types of bites, deep bites, open bites. And you can even build all kind of bling in them to help with overjets and stuff like that. Same thing here. This is for phase 3 correction. Lots of options here to jump bites, relatively fast. Deep bite correction, vertical issues. Anterior crossbite correction. These are so pretty. Aren't they beautiful? Really, really snazzy appliances. I mean, I don't know. And just to talk a little bit about compliance, I'm a huge fan of working with 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, even 10-year-olds. After that, they get a little bit rotten. They're much more challenging to work with. And right now at home, I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old. So we're kind of getting into that sassy phase. They're so much more awesome when they're under age 10. So, and they just, I don't know any 8, 9-year-old that wouldn't want to wear something like this. Doesn't mean the colors they have to wear. You can have them choose their colors, their team colors, decals, everything like that. Let them own it. Let them have fun. They would love to wear this to school, and they will wear it. Like it's not a problem at all. I'm not saying that, you know, occasionally they don't lose it or something, but there's ways to work around that. We talked about expanders a little bit more. Let's move on to braces. Okay. So indirect bonding is a super easy way where you don't even have to know where the brackets go. Digitally, the braces are set up. There's a transfer tray that's that's created. And if you know how to do a sealant, you can do this. That's the same principle. You don't do the hard stuff. The computer and the lab does it for you. Price point is less than $400 for the whole mouth, including the brackets. Yes, you'll have to invest in the wires and a few other things. I've actually worked with a major bracket company, orthodontic company, to get the cost of the wires and all the bling that you need, ties, chain, all that kind of stuff, springs, elastics. I've got it down to a little less than $1,100. That's all you need. And it's like a one-time purchase. It probably will last you a few years. At least 20 to 30 cases it'll last you for. It's a pretty minor investment to do a lot of braces in your practice. You will need to buy pliers, but we do actually have a straight wire course that we teach. We have a digital one that you can do. It's pretty popular right now. It's only $999 for one doctor, and it comes with a kit, including pliers, like a little bit of sample of everything you need, a type it on, everything like that, and we'll work with you on the movements. And we also have a hands-on course that we usually have twice a year in Phoenix. We had to cancel the one, it was supposed to be last couple weeks ago because of Corona, COVID, but we will hopefully be rescheduling it once all of this is over. But until then, I definitely recommend our digital class. Let's talk a little bit about hybrid treatment. What is hybrid treatment? So this is really popular now. It's kind of new. This is where you're using the best of both worlds. And braces are really great because they rapidly fix certain type of things faster than aligners. Aligners are really great at other things. So what you're doing is you're combining the best of braces and the best of aligners to finish a case quicker and for less money than something like Invisalign, right? So around $800, you're telling the patients they're getting aligners, and they will get them. The first half will be in braces, the second half will be in aligners. And lab fee for sure, less than $1,000. You can't beat that. And it's all digital. It's really easy. So we'll be glad to help you with that as well. Let's move on. It's really great to think about retention. You can't do ortho without retention. We'll be glad to tell you a little bit more about this. Don't forget, we have a really great YouTube site with over, I think we have 550 videos now that we've been creating for over 4 years. You can just go to YouTube and search StraightSmile Solutions and you can access it. It's all free. Everything I'm showing you, I have content on it. And if there's something that we haven't covered, you just have to message us and we will do our best to create it for you. So like I said, that's basically free education. It's all right there for you. That's pretty much it, what we have to share for you today. Here's our contact information and our website. We hope that you do reach out to us. We're super excited to teach you more about launching and starting any type of ortho in your practice, especially a pediatric dental practice. We hope to talk to you soon. I will hang out for a few seconds to see if there's any Q&As, but feel free to reach out to us either through our email or website directly, and we'll be glad to work with you. Thanks.